Welcome, guests and gastettes, to another horror of Netflix. I'm Martin Yates. This is junior co-host Callum McPhail.
Junior Birdman. Is that Batman quote?
Who's Junior Birdman?
Up there, Junior Birdman.
Nah.
Yeah,
I'm laughing like I know what he's talking about, but I have no idea.
But I'm assuming Junior Birdman is someone that's
Which Batman?
The 1981. Which Batman?
1981.
Batman.
1981 Batman.
Yeah, no, 1989.
Alright. What? Junior Birdman?
Which Batman? 1981. I need
You
to know
said
about this.
you said 1981.
No, 1989.
You went Batman 1981 and then you repeated
Right.
yourself and then said 1989 the second time.
Let's
Watch
bring
this.
this back. It's not like it's going to be recorded on YouTube for posterity forever. What's
Right.
the movie?
The movie tonight is a favourite of mine, and it's George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Now, we have covered Night of the Living Dead, the remake.
Yep.
I think this is the first of the original Dead trilogy that we've covered on
Cool.
horror of Netflix.
Followed a couple of years later by Day Out of the Dead.
Tea Time of the Dead.
I don't know, who's like a comedy trio. What were those
The
famous?
Three Stooges.
What were those famous brothers? Like, they were in every. There were like there's three black guys that were in every comedy movie. The Wayland Brothers.
Oh, fuck, yeah, right. Yeah.
Day Out of the Dead, starring the Wayland Brothers and Eddie Murphy.
I don't think George Romero was part of that, was he?
Mate, hey, never be ashamed to earn a buck. He wasn't in this one.
Anyway, Day of the Dead, classic film. What do you think about it, Callum?
I enjoyed it. As I pointed out to Martin earlier on, part of it's been beautifully homaged.
Hello!
And part of the opening bit is a Gorillaz track now.
Yeah.
If anyone remembers that band, but there's a scene in the movie that's beautifully homaged in Resident Evil Extinction.
Oh yeah, not quite so beautifully managed. Yeah. So the plot, the movie's set probably maybe 3 years after the events of Dawn of the Dead. I'm guessing you've all probably seen Dawn of the Dead.
It's up Cack Alley. Like,
Yeah,
the whole
they're
world.
up Cack Alley. There's almost no one left. In fact, the only group of humans that's left in the world are a small band of soldiers and scientists living in a bunker underground in Florida, which doesn't really make much sense when you think about it, because Florida is a heavily waterlogged place and there's not actually many big dry mines like we see in the film. But anyway, that's an aside. And there's two factions. The survivors are broken into two factions. On one side you get the military, who are very focused on just exterminate the threat, wipe them out, but they don't have the manpower, they don't have the weapons. They're a very small remnant of the US Army.
They're also very small-minded now as a result of their kind of desperate situation. Kind of possibly limited mental faculties to begin with. They're all kind of brawns over.
They're very. The movie was made in 1985, and they're very. Who was president in 1985? Reagan. They're very Reaganite.
Yeah.
The Reaganite military. The Captain Rhodes is a very kind of right wing authoritative figure who wants to keep things under control. On the other hand, you've got the scientists, who are so far the other way. There's this huge divide between them. The scientists are so embroiled in the minutiae of finding out what's happening, what's creating the zombies, which, by the way, I should maybe mention this is a zombie film, in case anyone's not seen it. We've battered on ahead into describing the plot without mentioning the zombies. And they're performing experiments on them, and one guy is trying to domesticate them. But at the same time, there's an argument against what they're doing, where he's trying to domesticate them, but neither does he have the manpower or the resources to domesticate all the zombies in the world. And at the point in the film, I believe there's a line that reveals that the humans are outnumbered 40,000 to 1, which is pretty vast. And there's a scene where they travel up and down the coast looking for other survivors and find no one, just empty cities and millions of zombies. So it's a really bleak start to the film, especially if you've seen Dawn of the Dead. I mean, Dawn of the Dead's pretty bleak as well, but it's got a lot of light and a lot of humour to it.
It's still the kind of early days in the
9/11
Dawn
days.
Dawn of the Days is people initially come to terms and like the first survivors, and then Day of the Dead's once it's all kind of set in, and it's kind of what's left to people.
It's never really made very clear how long after the initial outbreak it's set, but looking at some of the soldiers, some of them get like hair down to their arse. You would think, they've had shaven heads when they've started this, so they've been there 3-4 years probably. They've got to the point where they just look like hippies bombing around with guns. It's very Vietnam. I've had mine severely
You've had it well
back.
and truly locked.
So yeah, it's a very bleak start. There's not much hope in the world, and it's a much darker film than Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead had this big sort of, obviously mostly set in a shopping mall, other scenes set in airports and things like that. It's very brightly coloured neon, bright blue zombies, bright red blood.
Yeah.
Day of the Dead's a much darker, grittier, bleaker film. And there's not as much action in it, which I think when Day of the Dead initially came out, it wasn't as well regarded as Dawn of the Dead, because I think people thought...
The trailer's certainly cut for action.
Yes, it is. There is action in it. Most of it is in the trailer. But there's a bigger budget certainly than Dawn of the Dead, but it's more kind of concentrated into certain scenes, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas Dawn of the Dead had a smaller budget spread more thinly across a much bigger film. And Dawn of the Dead's this big bright film with lots of humour in it, and Day of the Dead has some humour in it, but it's mostly just a really dark, bleak, very, very gruesome, much more gruesome even than
and that's something that's actually conveyed in the effects. There's much more of an effort to, and I was saying earlier on, it's kind of almost like an attempt to like differentiate the zombies.
Yeah.
Not to give them personalities as such,
well,
but
I think they do give them personalities almost.
Yeah, I think some of them, but for the most part, in the earlier ones, it was the kind of blue makeup, and you maybe had the odd one that was a bit bloody. But in this one now, they almost tried to give you the story of like every zombie, how it's died. Like one will have its eye missing or its throat cut,
torn off.
Yeah, and it's really a bit more of a kind of a showcase of the special effects.
I think so. In Dawn of the Dead, there was definitely an attempt to give them each personalities, but that was mostly done just through the wardrobe. I think so. You had the Hare Krishna guy walking around. You had like a nurse. You had all these different guys
Mods
walking
and rockers.
about. Yeah. You had the bikers and all that. But whereas in this one, there's that happens as well. I think there's a clown zombie. And a few
Nobody
others.
gets hit with a pie in the face in this movie.
No.
The world's got a lot darker.
No, somebody gets his arm chopped off though, and cauterized with a burning torch in order to try and stave off the zombie infection. One thing I did notice about this film, one of the few zombie films I've ever seen where no one actually, with one minor exception, no one actually becomes a zombie and kills someone else. There's one scene. It may be beginning right now.
That would be amazing if it was. I think that was a fire engine. It would be amazing if we just looked at the window and there's just a fire engine blasting them out with... I actually live right next to an ambulance centre, fire station and police station because I'm that much of a liability. It's the only way I could get insurance on my home. But what's interesting about it is it's in terms of like the politics of it between like the soldiers and the scientists, it's much more of a modern kind of zombie film. It's kind of a bit like... like the likes of 28 Days Later in that way. Like you've got this kind of look where the soldiers are very much trained to go down a particular path, and rather than like fully facilitating the scientists, they're almost reverting back to this kind of like survival mode where it's like kind of drawn to. So sorry. The only way we can get through this is to literally punch our way through and go out and deal with them. But the scientists are trying to find some way to re-piece together civilization,
but
and society,
sides,
and it's possibly gone. Society's possibly past the point of repairing, but they're so caught up in their work that they can't really see past this.
There's a scene in which there's one line of dialogue which I think sums up how much further things have gone from Dawn of the Dead when they're talking about how everything has gone to shit. And one guy says, the guys are talking about how they used to talk to Washington on the radios, and then the radio operator says, we're on relays then, the power's off in the mainland now if you haven't noticed, and all the shopping malls are closed, and we're past this phase of Dawn of the Dead where there's still you can still go and have a good time, you can still go to the shopping mall and loot stuff and go and play in the arcades. Now it's serious, now the world has collapsed, everything's gone,
which is kind of with particularly like the Romero shambling zombies, it's quite hard to, I mean there's a lot of suspension of disbelief in the fact that you have to think that they have somehow managed to take over the world.
I think
that's something like that would be contained quite easily, but like 28 days later you can understand, because it's like they're not getting away from that shit.
There's a couple of things. One key aspect with Romero zombies is that they don't require a bite to turn you into a zombie. Everyone who dies for whatever reason, it's almost like a cosmic event. Every corpse on planet Earth gets up regardless of whether you're bitten or not. The bite has nothing to do with it. The Bite has something that came along kind of later on in movies like Zombie Flesh Eaters, and it's kind of almost inherited from vampire movies. But in George Romero's films,
was it in Zombie 2 where he fought the shark?
yeah, I wonder if the shark became a zombie. That's a good question. I wonder if Zombie 2's on Netflix.
See, at the start of this movie where they're looking around and an alligator comes out of, is it a church?
I think it's a bank.
Is the alligator a
No.
zombie? Oh.
There's no zombie animals in Romero's films. That's a Resident Evil invention.
Do you think that alligator would have fucked up? Is it an alligator or a croc? I don't know my geographical animals. no, but seriously, alligators and crocs hang about in different places.
Yeah, alligator, I think, is probably would be an alligator, because
you would fuck that zombie up, guaranteed.
Yeah, but then
Anyway,
point. Yeah, but so there's that aspect, but there's also a psychological aspect, because you would be asking. People, would you really believe there were genuinely zombies if there were actually zombies walking around out there?
Yeah.
Would a soldier holding a gun be told to shoot American citizens? Would he think, okay, I believe that these are actually supernatural creatures walking around? Were they going to go, no, my commander's lost
I think
his
that
mind?
now that it's so built up in society, if someone went, that's a zombie shooter, they would shoot it.
You have to imagine that these people are in a universe where zombie movies don't exist, because they're in the universe that the original zombie movie that created the zombie genre came from. Do you know what I mean? They've never seen a zombie film, because Night of the Living Dead can't exist as a film.
It's not Shaun of the Dead.
No,
it's Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think I mean, I guess you have to accept that as a premise of the film.
It's nice to see the progression though of it, isn't it? From night to dawn to day. You know,
and it sort of takes not to move further on in the series because we possibly could come to these films eventually.
Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead almost, I wouldn't want to say takes a step back, but by the time we come to Land of the Dead, which presumably is set after Day of the Dead, although it could be set before, who knows?
Where you kind of feel they wanted to make a Mad Max movie.
There's a city-state, you know, in amongst the zombies.
Is Dennis Hopper in the original or the sequel?
There is only one Land of the Dead. There's only one Land of the Dead. There's only one.
Oh right, like the later on. He is in it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I was half right.
Yeah. Dennis Hopper's in it. So is John Leguizamo.
Oh fuck! So he is.
And
it's like
Simon,
a kind of like
Simon Baker.
And they've got like a van that they drive around in that like is zombie proof.
Dead Reckoning that's got guns and all that. There's good. We'll come to that. There's good elements and bad elements to that film. But Day of the Dead, it has had, I think, a kind of hard time. Now I think it's regarded as one of the better zombie films, but when it came out, and for years, I mean, I remember in the late 90s and in the early 2000s going online and people slagging off Day of the Dead, talking about how much they hated it. It was the least favourite part of the trilogy, as then was. It was a trilogy at that point, and because it was slow and it's very talky, and there's not as much action compared to Dawn of the Dead, even compared to Night of the Living Dead. There's a lot of gore. Well, there's some very extreme gore, but it's not spread throughout the whole film. There's like bursts of gore throughout the movie, and there's long periods of screen time where you don't really see any zombies. There's a lot of people sitting around talking in bunkers and stuff. So I can see that point of view, but it seems to have had a bit of a renaissance, I think, in recent years. I think people have rediscovered it as quite a smart film. It's got a similar feeling to
There's
The
some
Thing.
real culty aspects about it as well.
Do you not think it's got a similar vibe to The Thing? No, not at all.
Thing's a much better film.
Do you not think it has a similar vibe?
No.
I don't know if
Don't
The Thing is
put
a
them
much
in
better
the-
film.
don't-
I think they're.
What?
Yeah.
Get him out.
No, definitely.
Get him
No,
out!
I definitely think they're easily on the same level. Definitely. Yeah, no, Day of the Dead's a
you
fantastic
nuts?
film. Day of the Dead's
But
a
it's not.
fantastic
It's not The Thing. The Thing is a seminal masterpiece. It's probably one of the greatest horror films of all time. It's certainly one of the greatest.
I enjoy Day of the Dead almost as much as I enjoy The Thing. It's not as tense, but it's. I think in some ways it's as good a film.
I've gone up a bit. I've gone so high. I can't go any higher with my voice. It actually hurt. I'm hurt. I'm hurt by you.
Feel it. I also think Alien 3 is better than Aliens, but then there we go.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Says it all.
I have a strange taste.
I don't know what I can say anymore. Before we go, Land of the Dead the remake.
What are you talking about? There's no Land of the Dead remake.
No, right. What Day of the Dead remake?
Oh God.
Right. Where the zombies can run. They've obviously watched 28 Days Later. You've seen it.
No, they've seen Dawn. I've not seen it.
You
I've
have.
seen as much of it as I need to see. Let's put it that way. It's fucking terrible. Don't watch it.
Cool.
That's all you need to know. It's beyond terrible. It's a different kind of film. It's not an intelligent film. It's fucking just fucking zombies crawling on the ceiling, right? That's all I'm going to say.
So ultimately, The Thing, 10 out of 10, go and see it.
Day of the Dead, 11 out of 10. Fuck The Thing. Sorry.
Glass. Is The Thing on the American Netflix?
I don't think so.
It's on Now TV. It's on Now TV's movie package.
Yeah, but as you said, the Horrors of Now TV doesn't have the same
it doesn't have
ring
the
to it.
same ring.
So we'll not be reviewing that.
No, but go and watch The Thing, and then watch that as well. I do enjoy it, but Martin is bang wrong.
I think
This is good.
Day of the Dead. Sorry, I think The Thing is a better made film, and it's more viscerally entertaining. But I think that Day of the Dead is in some ways a more cerebral film than The Thing. It's better. It's better. The Thing is better down here, and Day of the Dead's better up here.
Just a quick before we go. Time Cop, Terminator. Which one's better?
Terminator.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Transfer's Blade Runner.
Close.
Right. Transfers is an underrated masterpiece, right? But
Yeah, Blade Runner. Yeah.
right. Okay, so you're 2 for 2,
Uh-huh.
right? I need to give you a tough one. Godzilla versus King Kong
Uh huh.
and
King
the
Kong.
1980s King Kong movie.
Godzilla versus King Kong.
Correct. That's 3 for 3. How did you manage?
So I'm correct about Day of the Dead.
No, you're not. That's malfunction. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this ramble.
I know you guys think I'm right.
I like the fact that Horror of Netflix originally was something and it's descended into chaos. One thing quickly before we go, to reference back to The Keep, which was one of the first ones we did, and we're also talking about doing Manhunter as well. So we'll be doing 2 Michael Mann movies. I just picked up this Michael Mann Taschen book. If I can very quickly find The Keep, and it's got all the production photos from The Keep. Oh, there it is there. Keep talking, Mark. Hey, no, it's interesting. Look, Nazis with their heads coming off. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Did that make it into the film?
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
I still not watched it.
Goodbye, everyone.